अबे लक्ष्मी US
अरे शायद छोटे दाने भी करते हैं
मेरे केमिस्ट्री अच्छे हो गया मेरा नहीं हुआ केमिस्ट्री मैं नोट से पढ़ा भाई ब्लॉक्स में होता है व्हाट इज डिटॉक्स अभी वो टेक्स्ट में उठा तू भी सीख नहीं है ना हमारे चीज भाई तेरा मैंने भी तो रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा मैंने एक्सेप्ट भी कर लिया
I love sentiment.
तो
गूगल फंक्शन तो हमको खोला
नहीं करते थी अपने अकाउंट से लोगों का इन्फो भी पेरेंट्स क्या इसका मेरा फिर अरे वो सीरीज सेंड कर दो हर बार जाना वो आंसर था नहीं पाया मेरे को नहीं आता
it was short for those lines. कोई मीनिंग नहीं लगा पर ये इसमें हंसता है
अरे मेरी मां
आगे क्वेश्चन की
ले ले ना
चालू हो गए हां नॉट दैट इट हंस हम पीछे भी ये कैसे हंसता है क्या आई वो की चालू करते हैं इसकी बात दो लाइक्स पीछे थे
तो फिर क्या हुआ वो मैम ने एग्जांपल दिया है एक वाइट पर्सन है
तू बोला था
मैं नहीं बोला मैंने बोला नहीं हम लोग एक बार ऐसे ड्रिलिंग की आवाज आ रही है जो ड्रिलिंग की आवाज में बड़ी मजेदार फिर ये पता नहीं बीच बीच में ये हम लोग को भी ऐसे देखना था दोनों आई कांटेक्ट करते थे तो दोनों हंसने लगे
वो मैम का देखो एलियन इन्वेशन की
हां
साइलेंट का वर्जन है
नहीं वो साइलेंट अलग है
नाम का रिंगटोन है नाम का ऐसे रखा है
मैं नर्सरी की Imagine I had pants. But it is nothing. Are you bored? No. You. में 5000 तक किया है मैं मेरे वीडियो में
स्वैम्स कैसे होते हैं?
Stance basically the muscles connecting the muscles with the
I broke because of But I don't know but मुझे वो 18 में किसी को मिलेगा तो मेरा
उसकी गलती थी एक भी बाहर नहीं निकला हमसे नहीं जाना अच्छे बच्चे सारे 15 मिनट तक यहाँ पे बैठे चलो we'll start with the phases now. We were talking about breathing. Let us try understanding the process of breathing. Gaseous exchange followed by gaseous exchange. What are the steps?
Now, to understand the concept of gaseous exchange, we'll have to remember that the features of the alveolus are. What are the two special features of the alveolus I mentioned? Thin wall and blood vessels around. So, ये concept याद रखना है. Thin walled and blood vessels surrounding. So, if these are the features we are going to come across, that how the next step, that is exchange of gases, would take place. So, what am I talking about? Alveolus है, surrounding the alveolus, large number of blood vessels है. So exchange of gases meaning what? Already you have written down the definition. Oxygen and carbon dioxide is getting exchanged between the alveolus and the blood. Tissue respiration क्या है? Exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide is happening between the blood and the tissues. And cellular respiration already you have understood with respect to nutrition also. So now, I think you did not write down this, no? Exhalation नहीं लिखा, तो पहले ये complete करो. Exhalation. So inhalation के events, if these are the ones, then exhalation, let us write. Exhalation, what are the events? Exhalation events would be just the opposite I told you. Exhalation is just the opposite of inhalation. Then where are the changes? The first point, ribs move backwards and downwards. Likho. Ribs move backwards and downwards. Relaxation, yes. Due to the relaxation of just the opposite. Exhalation is just the opposite of inhalation. Relaxation of intercostal muscles.
Now let's move backwards and downwards.
And due to the relaxation of intercostal muscles. Due to the relaxation of intercostal muscles. Next point. What is the next point you'll have to write?
Diaphragm contracts and
Diaphragm, what will you write?
Relaxes
And becomes curved. Flat. Instead of flat, to write curved. Next point. What to write? Space of chest cavity decreases and alveolar air of the alveolus. Alveolar air rushes out of the lungs. And lungs are deflated, meaning squeezed. Lungs are deflated. Deflated meaning squeezed. Lungs are deflated. Done? Now write down the next head, gaseous exchange. What are some of the terms, the process that you have to remember? Let us try understanding the process of gaseous exchange, cellular respiration, tissue respiration. All these are related steps one after the other. So now that you know the concept of breathing, what are we drawing here? This is an alveolus. Try to understand. All of you look here and try to understand the features, the characteristics that we are going to draw, understand. Now here, gaseous exchange, how does it happen? What is the meaning? You don't have to draw this figure, this is only for you to understand. So now that you have understood about the concept of inhalation, so at the end of inhalation what? Lungs are filled with air. So that is the concept. After inhalation, lungs are filled with air. So I start that way, that after the process of inhalation, there is large amount of air in the lungs. But now I also have to find out which component of the air, carbon dioxide or oxygen, is more in the lungs. So that is the first thing I have to understand, that now this particular alveolus, already we have studied, every single alveolus will have a very thin wall and rich supplied with blood vessels. So there are large amount of blood supply surrounding the alveolus. Now this alveolus, a single alveolus, when I see, it has got more of oxygen than carbon dioxide. Why? Why? After the process of inhalation, every single alveolus filled with air. Now I want to know only how much of the oxygen, how much of the carbon dioxide. And then I get to see that the amount of oxygen in the alveolus, every single alveolus, amount of oxygen is much more than carbon dioxide. Why? क्यों? Reason क्या है? Because
Inhalation.
because
Inhalation. And
inhalation, so we are inhaling air, we are not inhaling
ma'am, air
oxygen.
has a higher composition of oxygen.
Concentration of oxygen. So we are talking about what? Atmospheric air is filling into the lungs. So here we are only trying to understand at the start, atmospheric air has got what? More of oxygen, less of carbon dioxide, no? Atmospheric air has 21% of oxygen and only 0.03% of carbon dioxide. So why did I draw the concept of oxygen and carbon dioxide this way intentionally? To give him a specific idea that oxygen is always more in the atmospheric air as compared to carbon dioxide. So yes, if I have to talk about the atmospheric air, carbon dioxide is how much? Carbon dioxide is just 0.03. How much is oxygen? Oxygen is almost 21%. So that's the reason after the process of inhalation, every single alveolus has got more of oxygen, much lesser of carbon dioxide. Down there in the blood vessel, what are the features? Down there in the blood vessel, there are certain type of cells. Which type of cells we are not thinking of? Cells known as the RBCs, red blood cells. Red blood cells has got a particular pigment. What is the name of the pigment? Hemoglobin. Red blood cells has got one particular pigment known as hemoglobin. So this particular pigment, hemoglobin, is in the red blood cell. Now why talking about hemoglobin? Because this hemoglobin is also known as the respiratory pigment. Hemoglobin, the moment I talk about, what is the other word? Hemoglobin. What is the definition also? Hemoglobin is also known as the respiratory pigment. Why like that? It is known as the respiratory pigment because it of course imparts red color to the blood but has got a great binding capacity with or affinity with oxygen, carbon dioxide. So if that is true, then I understand that this hemoglobin, first of all, what will happen to this oxygen? The oxygen is diffusing towards the nearby blood vessel. Why? Why the direction of oxygen movement is this way? Why not from here to here? Can I tell you that no, some oxygen molecules move from here to here also? No, that is not possible. Whenever I am comparing the alveolus and the nearby blood vessel, what is the direction of oxygen movement? Oxygen is always moving from the alveolus towards the blood. Reason is what? Oxygen is more here, oxygen is less here. Which process am I talking about at this level? I am only talking about a process known as diffusion, where the molecules of this gas, oxygen, moving from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. So one rule try understanding, whenever I am comparing the alveolus and the blood has less of oxygen and more of carbon dioxide always. Oxygen is always more here in the alveolus, less in the blood. That is the reason why oxygen is moving from the alveolus to the blood. Then next one, the hemoglobin and the oxygen form a bond. Hemoglobin and oxygen will always form a bond. Where? In the blood. And what is this temporary compound now known as? By the process of diffusion, now that I talk about this particular compound, what is this particular compound known as? This particular compound is known as oxyhemoglobin, a temporary compound formed between hemoglobin and oxygen, where? In the blood. So now this oxyhemoglobin is getting transported. Blood carries oxygen in this form. What is the form in which oxygen is getting transported in the blood? As oxygen molecules? No. Temporary compound known as oxyhemoglobin. Is it ever possible that in the blood, oxygen molecules are just as it is moving? No, they are never moving as oxygen molecules, but they are always moving in the form of oxyhemoglobin. So yes, by the process of blood circulation, the oxyhemoglobin is now present in the blood in large amount, but definitely it is possible that the blood vessels passes by a large number of tissues and organs. So I am also understanding that this blood vessel, which runs passing by the lungs, of course is also passing by other parts of the body. So these blood vessels, which are constantly dividing in the form of a network, so these blood vessels will also be passing by the stomach and the liver and the intestine, etc., etc. So let us talk about a tissue now. The blood, which is now passing by the alveolus, is gathering a large amount of oxygen. So this blood is what type of blood? Which is moving towards the lungs. This blood is what type of blood? Deoxygenated. Already I have we discussed this already. The blood which is moving towards the lungs, what type of blood? Deoxygenated. This blood, as it moves by the lungs, as it passes by the lungs, what's happening? The blood is picking up oxygen, and now this blood is oxygenated. So yes, a large amount of hemoglobin and oxygen bonded. So this compound is now moving in the blood. So this blood, which has got a large amount of oxyhemoglobin, when it comes near the tissues, now next one. So this compound, oxyhemoglobin, is formed where? Near the respiratory surface always. But this compound, when it comes near the tissues, what will happen? The concentration of oxygen here is more, here is less. So first I compare this, when I said oxygen here more, here less. Now I compare blood vessel and the tissues, and I am saying oxygen here more, here less. So what will be the direction of oxygen movement? Definitely the bond between oxygen and hemoglobin breaks up. Hemoglobin remains in the blood and the oxygen is moving towards tissues. So this exchange between the alveolus and the blood is a part of gaseous exchange. We have written down the definition. And whenever I am talking about the exchange happening between the blood and the tissues, this is a part of tissue respiration. Am I clear? What are the definitions? Read for yourself and tally. Is it happening? What is the meaning of heart? Tell me.
कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड का अर्थ भी
रुको, अभी कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड अभी तक आया नहीं है, स्टोरी अभी बाकी है. यहाँ तक समझ में आया कि नहीं बोल? Done, no? Very clear? So what I told you, whenever I am comparing the alveolus and the blood, where is oxygen more? Here. This is the reason why oxygen is diffusing from the alveolus towards the blood. Then now next what? In the blood a temporary compound form. What is the name of the temporary compound? Oxyhemoglobin. How is blood transporting oxygen? Always in the form of oxyhemoglobin. But this compound, whenever it comes near the tissues, this is the process. Hemoglobin will be left in the blood and oxygen will have a great tendency of moving towards the tissues क्योंकि यहाँ पे oxygen ज़्यादा यहाँ पे कम. Which process? Diffusion. The entire story is just this process we are talking about, diffusion of molecules of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Okay now. We now try to understand that now that the cells have got the oxygen, what would be the fate of oxygen? Let us try looking into one of these cells. In one of these cells, by the process of absorption and assimilation, glucose तो पहले से ही था. And now they are getting what? Now they are getting oxygen. So अभी product क्या बनेगा? Carbon dioxide and water and 38 ATP or energy only I write. So this process already you have studied in the last part of the chapter also, and this process is what is known as cellular respiration, also known as cellular oxidation. मतलब the breakdown of the food in the body cells with the help of oxygen. What are the products? Primary products क्या है? Primary products are carbon dioxide and energy. So this is the process which is happening in every body cell. Every body cell gets adequate amount of oxygen. Food is getting broken down. Energy is getting released. Carbon dioxide is getting released. So where is carbon dioxide more now? In the tissues or in the blood? In the tissues. When I compare now that the carbon dioxide which is released in every cell of the tissue, so when I compare the blood and the nearby tissue, where is carbon dioxide more? Comparing the blood and the tissue, carbon dioxide is more in the tissue cells. Blood में comparatively कम है. So if that is true, then what should be the direction of the carbon dioxide movement from the tissue to blood? Diffusion of carbon dioxide will always happen from tissue towards blood. High concentration to a region of low concentration. Process यही है, diffusion. But now, ये जो carbon dioxide है, will it get bonded with all? Will all the carbon dioxide get bonded with hemoglobin? No. Unlike oxygen. Oxygen, whatever amount of oxygen comes down from here to here, all of it gets bonded with hemoglobin. But अब जो carbon dioxide has moved from the tissues to the blood, all of it will not get bonded with hemoglobin. Only a small fraction will get bonded with hemoglobin, forming a compound again. So what will happen to the rest of the carbon dioxide? The rest of the carbon dioxide will remain in the blood plasma in the form of carbonic acid. In the form of carbonic acid or bicarbonate ions. So now the carbon dioxide which is getting released from the tissues, only a small fraction will bind with hemoglobin. Hemoglobin has got a less attraction, low attraction for the oxygen molecules, less bonding capacity with carbon dioxide, more with oxygen. So इसीलिए पूरा का पूरा oxygen gets bonded with hemoglobin, but for carbon dioxide only a small fraction. And a greater part remains in the blood plasma. Plasma क्या है? I'm talking about blood plasma. Plasma क्या है? Blood plasma. Plasma क्या है? Blood में जो plasma होती है, what is that? Blood plasma is the plasma means the liquid part of the blood. नहीं, liquid matrix is different. Liquid part of the blood. So blood is fluid, no? That fluid part is all plasma, जिसमें तीन तरह के cells हैं, RBC, WBC, platelets. Right now we are only talking about RBCs. So I'm saying that this bicarbonate will remain dissolved in the plasma. You will come across this. You will have to write this in your answer. Bicarbonates remain dissolved in the plasma. Plasma क्या है? The liquid part of the blood में dissolved हो जाता है. So this bicarbonate has nothing to do with the lungs now. This bicarbonate will get broken down and get released out by the way of the kidneys later. Right now we are only talking about this compound. So this particular compound, a compound of carbon dioxide and hemoglobin. The moment this in course of blood circulation again comes near the alveolus, what will be the fate of this compound? Carbon dioxide will always have a tendency of moving from the blood to the alveolus. क्यों? क्योंकि यहाँ पे carbon dioxide ज़्यादा, यहाँ पे carbon dioxide कम. So all throughout we have always understood what decides the movement of the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, the concentration differences. जहाँ पे concentration ज़्यादा है, from that particular region, it will move to a low concentration area हमेशा. From a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration, from a region of high to a region of low, from a region of high to a region of low, from a region of high to a region of low, always. Which process are we talking about? Overall, we are talking about diffusion. Now, hemoglobin is set free in the blood. Carbon dioxide comes back to the alveolus, and from the alveolus, during the course of exhalation, carbon dioxide will be released out. So now, if I talk about that, how much of the carbon dioxide is present now in the exhaled air? Almost about 4%, a little bit more than 4%. 4% of carbon dioxide is present in the exhaled air, quite a lot. 4% of carbon dioxide is present in the exhaled air. Now, which one of these processes, we were talking about phases of respiration, then which one is gaseous exchange? I would say exchange of oxygen between alveolus and blood, this is one part of gaseous exchange. And exchange of carbon dioxide between alveolus and blood, this is the next part of gaseous exchange. So whenever the exchange is happening between the alveolus and the blood for oxygen, for carbon dioxide, that is known as gaseous exchange. Then what is tissue respiration? The exchange which is happening between the blood and the tissue, that is tissue respiration. The exchange that happens between the blood and the tissues for oxygen and for carbon dioxide, that is what is known as tissue respiration. And what is the last phase? Cellular respiration or cellular oxidation. Are these happening one after the other? No, ये simultaneous होता रहता है. This is all simultaneously happening. By the time we are breathing, this is going on. By the time this is going on, all these processes are constantly going on simultaneously, not one after the other. These are simultaneous processes. So when we are talking about exhaled air, now we are understanding that what are some of the components of the exhaled air. I talk about exhaling on my palm. What do I understand? Is the air that we exhale a little bit warm? Yes, it is warm. Indicating that the exhale or the process of respiration also releases energy in the form of heat. ATP definitely also heat. You exhale on the glass pane, does it become moist? Yes. Process of exhalation, respiration produces water in the form of vapor. And carbon dioxide. How do we understand that the exhaled air has a large amount of carbon dioxide? सबसे important, सबसे common feature is when we are blowing the candles. When we try to blow out small amounts of fire, immediately extinguishes क्योंकि carbon dioxide so much in the exhaled air. But we'll talk about one more activity that talks about the presence of carbon dioxide in the exhaled air. There's a small activity. Check it in your textbook. देखो कौन सा पेज है? Page number. Go to the next. Go to the next. Next. आगे. और आगे. Activity 5. हाँ. कौन सा पेज? 91. Page number 91. 91.
Number 87.
ये आगे आगे. This one. Activity 5.4. 5.4. Activity 5.4. Okay. Now it is in the textbook. I think volume में it is not there.
It is there.
है क्या?
In the last page.
So in this activity, what do we understand? We are trying to test that exhaled air has large amount of carbon dioxide. So what is that simple activity about? That simple activity here is we take a test tube And in this test tube, what are we taking? We are taking lime water. What do we take? We take lime water. What is the composition of lime water? Calcium hydroxide. And in this, now the lime water is actually transparent, colorless. Lime water is transparent, colorless, and we take this in a test tube. And then we start exhaling here. We start exhaling here. So this particular test tube we fill with small amount of lime water, which is transparent and colorless, and then we try exhaling air into it. As we are exhaling, in a period of some 5-7 minutes, we get to see that the transparency of the lime water is a little bit gone. The transparency of the lime water is a little bit gone. You can see that the lime water is becoming foggy. Lime water थोड़ा सा cloudy हो रहा है, little bit whitish हो रहा है. The lime water is becoming a little bit foggy. We say the lime water is foggy. Foggy meaning it is becoming little bit whitish. And if it still continue the process of exhalation, for another 5-7 minutes, 10 minutes, then you get to see that the lime water is quite whitish in color, known as milky nature of the lime water. The lime water turns milky. Now, at this stage, meaning for the last 10 minutes we were exhaling air, and now we get to see that it is not only foggy and milky, but we get to see some granular substances also. Something like, if I take some lime water, or if I just take water and put some chalk powder in it, कैसे होगा? Some granule suspension जैसे होगा ना? Exactly that way. Some granule दिखेगा, and then there's a foggy color, no? Exactly same like that, we get to see the lime water develops that type of a color consistency. But what is the reason? Why did it become this way? What happened? During the course of exhalation, what did we introduce into the test tube? We had introduced large amount of carbon dioxide. And then this calcium hydroxide started reacting with carbon dioxide and resulting in the formation of calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is the new compound formed there, which is responsible for the foggy nature, the white milky color, and also the granular consistency जो भी बना है, because it is almost like those particulate matter that is present in the chalk also, or all other calcium compounds. So what is the new compound formed? Calcium carbonate. What is the reason that the lime water became milky? This is the reason, and formation of a new compound. Okay. So that particular activity, read that activity and see if it is clear. Doubt है कुछ पूछो. टेक्स्ट बुक नहीं है, इसमें है क्या? अच्छा, इसमें खाली सिर्फ क्वेश्चन है. ओके. Did you go through? You have the textbook. You don't have the textbook. Textbook. This is your NCERT, no? This one you have now. Read it. Once you are done, give her also to read. Once you are done, give them to read fast. Small activity, but you get questions on that. This simple activity, you get questions on that. What is the aim of this experiment? Why is this activity done? To check whether exhaled air has large amount of carbon dioxide. But now tell me, I don't go for the process of exhaling. Lime water लिया, ऐसे ही रख दिया under room temperature. Will the lime water become foggy? Milky होगा? I kept it for 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. 8 hours मैंने रखा, 8 to 10 hours मैंने रखा. Foggy होगा? हाँ?
No.
हाँ होगा.
Because of the carbon dioxide
Present in the atmosphere. Now, here the reason is, if I am talking about exhalation, this process is faster. I'm not talking about exhalation, बस लाइन वाटर लिया और रूम टेम्परेचर मैंने 10 hours रखा. Am I going to see after 10 hours वही same transparency of the lime water? No, the lime water now will become foggy. But why is it taking so long a time? Because amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is much less. इसीलिए time लगेगा. But then होगा. But when I'm talking about process of exhalation, we are forcefully introducing so much of carbon dioxide, so the process is much faster. 10 minutes is enough time we get to see a change. Clear hai? So if any comparison is there, so always remember, even if kept in the room temperature, atmospheric air also can make it, but it will always take a longer time. Done? So this is about the concept of breathing, respiration, breathing, gaseous exchange, tissue respiration and cellular respiration. Next is, after this activity, you are supposed to come across, let us try some questions. Take out your volume now, all of you. Take out your volume. Some questions check from the previous set if you have done, so there's no need of repeating. You will try answering these questions.
What is the page number?
Page number, you turn to 167. Turn to 167. Turn to 167 and start with question number 2. Take those questions. Number 2. Number 3. Number 5. Number 5. Number 6. Number 6. Check. I think we must have completed this earlier. Number 6. Number 10. Number 11. 169. Now turn to 170. Turn to 170. Nutrition, very short answer type 1. Number 2. Number 3. Assertion, respiration, number 5. Number 6. Number 7. Number 7, I'll give you the answer. Number 7. Number 8B. Number 8B, I will give you the answer. Number 7 and 8B, pehle likh lo. The rest you will do on your own. Number 8B, I will give you. C and D, you will write on your own. C and D, you will write on your own. Number 9. Number 10 is the same. Okay, let us try this many. First you write number 7A. First you write number 7A, then 8B. Let us write number 7A first. All of you, did you take the questions? Number 7A, pehle likho. How many are absent today? 3. Number 7A. Why is there a difference in the rate of breathing between aquatic organisms and terrestrial organisms? Okay. What type of organisms are we?
Terrestrial.
Terrestrial. Matlab? Land organisms. Now that we are breathing, say suppose for the last half an hour, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, we are constantly breathing. हमें देख के समझ में आता है that we are breathing? Did you ever observe a fish in the aquarium? देख के समझ में आता है that the fish is breathing? कैसे? कैसे? अच्छा, bubbles के बिना अगर मैं bubbles नहीं सोचूं तो और क्या? The opposite. So if you have observed that, correct? Did you all observe that? If nahi, then observe next whenever you get to see these aquatic organisms. The fishes in the aquarium, if you just check them carefully, you will see that these small fishes also, they have got a covering on the gills, no? The operculum, shield-like structure. So this shield-like structure, this constantly keeps moving, no? Up, down, moving constantly. But for us, is there any change? No, we don't get to see any change. And the process of breathing is quite smooth. Why is it like that? Because for us, at one breath, we can take in a large amount of oxygen. So, atmospheric air has 21% of oxygen. So, if I talk about 1 ml of air and 1 ml of water, this means other oxygen hai? Air. Water has got very, very less amount of oxygen with dissolved oxygen hai, which is less than 1/4, much lesser than 1/4 of what is there in the air. So that's the reason an aquatic organism has to put in so much of energy to grab that small amount of oxygen. So many number of times it has to breathe in. So many number of times it has to take in that large amount of water. Then only वहाँ से छोटा सा amount of oxygen it will absorb in the cells. But for us, at one breath, so much of oxygen. That's the reason for us, we don't have to spend in so much of energy for the process of breathing, but the aquatic organism has to. Right? And on top of that, when we are talking about the respiratory structures, for us the respiratory structures are even more developed, even more advanced as in compared with the respiratory structures of the fishes. Are you aware how many number of times we breathe per minute?
Maybe 16.
16 to 18 times. 16 to 18 times, 20, 25 times, whenever we are running, walking fast, any type of a physical activity that we do, 30, 35 times, उससे ज़्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. Breathing rate something above 60 is an alert. Breathing rate something above 70, 75, and when at rest, it should be at the most 20, 25. उससे ज़्यादा नहीं. So if the breathing rate is something above 50, 55 or 60 at rest as of now, then there is something to be worried about, something maybe there is an issue with the blood vessel, with the heart, with the lungs, etc. Let us write this answer. Why is there a difference in the rate of breathing between aquatic organisms and terrestrial organisms, right? The amount of oxygen present in the air, is much more. Amount of oxygen present in the air is much more than dissolved in the water. Much more than dissolved in the water. Full stop. Any terrestrial organism can take it sufficient amount of oxygen. Any terrestrial organism can take in sufficient amount of oxygen at one breath. Sufficient amount of oxygen at one breath. In comparison to an aquatic organism. In comparison to an aquatic organism which takes in large amount of water, inside the body. Which passes by the blood vessels. Comma, helping the blood to absorb, only a small amount, helping the blood to absorb a small amount of oxygen. Full stop. Thus, the rate of breathing for an aquatic organism, is much higher per minute to satisfy the oxygen demand. Okay, full stop. Come to 8b now. Write the mechanism by which fishes breathe in water. Mechanism means you just have to write the answer for 2 marks, nothing more than that you take with the paper. So what are the organs, what are some special features, only that much you have to write down. The answer? Aquatic organisms like fishes have gills. Aquatic organisms like fishes have gills as their primary respiratory organ. Full stop. Gills are on the surface of the body. Richly supplied with blood vessels. And are extensively moist. Full stop. As the water rushes through the gills, comma, as the water rushes through the gills, comma, oxygen from the water diffuses into the blood. Oxygen from the water diffuses into the blood, and the carbon dioxide of the blood diffuses into the water. Carbon dioxide of the blood diffuses into the water. Full stop. This exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, this exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the water and the blood vessels near the gills, is the primary phase of exchange of gases in aquatic organisms. Okay. Fishes breathe in water. Since the word breathe is there, only you'll have to write about gills. But if the question is, how does aquatic organism take in oxygen by the process of diffusion, then little bit about the skin also has to be mentioned, because I talk about the fishes or any other aquatic organism, their skin is also moist, extensively moist. And since their skin is extensively moist, small amount of oxygen diffuses through their skin also. But right now you have to write only about the gills because the word breathe is mentioned. So for breathing, we cannot talk about the skin. Now, go through the rest of the question that I have asked you. Go through the rest of the question, try solving and tell me wherever there's a doubt. Go through all the questions, go through. Most of them are MCQs, you should be able to mark there in the textbook. And if some are, I think one or two are descriptive questions that you'll have to write in box. Both the ACs are working over.
Yes.
Only one. Go in there. Very more. Okay, most of these questions are MCQs. Go through and try solving them. Wherever there's a doubt, you'll have to clarify. Put up one. Just put up one. Let it be here. Let it be here. In school, till which part of the chapter is done? Nutrition is over?
Yes, ma'am.
Nutrition is over? Started. Achha, nutrition just started. Respiration हो गया in some schools?
Yes.
हो गया? Achha. For you? Same school. Nutrition हो गया. The next part that we are going to start would be transportation. Okay?
Ma'am, do single-celled organisms have like cell wall or something, cell membrane?
Single cell organisms, depending on what it is. If it is only the amoeba, then it will have only the cell membrane. Bacteria hai, to cell wall bhi hai. What is the question?
Actually, it's the correct statements with reference to single-celled organisms are. So the given 4 statements, we have to choose which one of these are correct.
Which question it is?
Question number 3, page number
The
167.
correct statements with reference to single-celled organisms are: complex substances are not broken down in simpler forms. Simple diffusion is sufficient to meet requirement. Specialized tissues perform different functions. Entire surface of the organism is in contact with the okay. Correct statements with reference to single-celled organisms. Complex substances are not broken down. No, that is wrong. Simple diffusion is sufficient to meet requirement. Yes, that is correct. Number 2 and number 4 is correct.
Okay. That's okay.
Specialized tissues perform no, they will not have any tissues, and entire surface of the organism is in contact with environment. Yes. So number 2, number 4 is correct. Okay, go ahead. Read.
Fifth question.
What is it? Can you read out?
Which one of the following statements are correct in reference to the role A during a breathing cycle in human beings?
Which one?
So, fifth, what is the A indicating?
Number 5. Which one is number? Next page again.
No, I mean, ye number 5. This one. This one.
Which one of the following is correct with reference to the role of A? Acha.
Which part?
Which one of the following statements are correct with reference to role of A? Number 1. Helps to decrease residual volume. Acha, what is residual volume? Just write down the concept of residual volume. Itna detail mein nahi hai in your portion, but then now there's a question. So residual volume means after exhalation, what do you feel? Lungs are all empty?
Yeah.
No. Small amount of air is still there. Agar lungs empty ho jayega, the moment you are exhaling, to ye sara process stop. This process will never stop. Even if you are exhaling, some 500 ml of air is still there in the lungs. Because this process has to go on. Okay? So that amount of air which is left in the lungs after exhalation, that is what is residual volume. Now, it helps to decrease residual volume of air in the lungs. Which of the following statements are correct in reference to role of A during a breathing cycle? Helps to decrease residual volume. No. Flattens as we inhale. Which is A shown? Diaphragm. Flattens we inhale, correct? Gets raised strong, helps the chest cavity to become larger. Helps the chest cavity to become larger. True. So again 2 and 4. 2 and 4. A is correct. Read the statements, check whether you are able to understand. What is it? Which what's this question? Specialized tissue cells perform different functions. No, here they are saying if it is a single cell organism, if it is a single cell organism, will they have specialized tissues? No, one cell. So उसमें single specialized tissues की कोई सवाल ही नहीं है. Multi-cell. Only for multi-cell.
Page 116.
डाउट है? करो, चेक करो, go through all the question, देखो if you are able to understand कहाँ पे doubt है, go through the questions. The more you solve questions, you'll be clear about a topic.
Yeah, there is a doubt actually.
बोलो.
Very short answer type question number 3. What do we actually mean when we say that the enzymes are specific in their action? What is that?
What does that mean? Say suppose I talk about the proteins in the stomach. Which is that enzyme?
Pepsin.
Proteins in the stomach is digested by which enzyme? Pepsin. But now that the protein is partially digested, the food moves to the duodenum, small intestine. Can the pepsin act? Will the pepsin act on the food further, on the proteins further?
No.
तो अब कौन सा enzyme चाहिए? Trypsin. But now the food is running down from the stomach, mixed with the gastric juices. उस food में pepsin is still there, which is acting on the proteins, breaking it down to bigger peptides. तो trypsin ही क्यों काम करना है? Why the pepsin is not breaking it down further? क्योंकि enzymes are specific. One particular compound, only one particular enzyme will break. जब protein complex है pepsin. Now that protein is partially broken down, now pepsin will not show its job even if it is in direct contact. Pepsin molecule or peptide, will the pepsin break peptides? No, complex protein को ही break करेगा. So what is the concept? Every enzyme acts on a specific substrate. You can give one example on your own, just now what I explained. What is the meaning? You can write that answer. I will explain you. I give you one example. खुद से लिखो. खुद से लिखो. Example. Learn how to make answers on your own. Complex proteins broken down by pepsin to peptides. Peptides, can peptides be or complex peptides? Peptones and peptides I gave you in your notes earlier. So peptones and peptides, meaning for partially digested proteins, will they be broken down by pepsin? No. Now trypsin. Two small peptides. So right, you have to use words like specific enzyme, act on a specific substrate. You have to use that word substrate. Every enzyme acts on a specific substrate and breaks it down to simpler forms. Something like a lock and a key. एक lock है, उसको हम चार तरह के key से खोल सकते हैं. Only one lock, only one key. One lock के लिए only one key. Only that one key will act. उससे ज़्यादा दूसरा कोई key work ही नहीं करेगा. So that is the concept. Every enzyme acts on a specific substrate, breaks it down to specific compounds. For example, एक दो example लिखो. Done? All questions done? The first page, which one I started with? Page 167, right? Page 167 था first page? No? Doubt है? हाँ. अरे जोर से बोलना. Enzymes are special chemical substances that act on a specific substrate. That act on a specific substrate to break them down to similar compounds. Substrate मतलब एक compound जिसपे enzyme is acting on. Act on a specific substrate to break them down to simpler compounds. Now you give some examples. For example, complex proteins will be broken down only by pepsin, though trypsin is also an enzyme. Can complex proteins be ever broken down by trypsin? No, trypsin will never act on complex proteins. Trypsin will act only on partially digested proteins. आया समझ में? हाँ, एक enzyme acts only on one specific substrate. So just give one or two examples like this. They have own specific functions. They have got their own specific. They have their own specific, not function. That's not the correct word, right? Since they have got their own specific action on a specific substrate. They have got their own specific action on a substrate. Okay? They have got a specific action on a substrate. Yes.
Name the process and explain the type of nutrition found in leaf plant.
Name the process for
And type of heterotrophic. Type of nutrition.
Name the Name the process and explain the type of nutrition. Name the process and explain the type of nutrition in green plants. Name the process photosynthesis, type of nutrition autotrophic. Type of nutrition autotrophic. List the raw materials required for this process. क्या है raw materials for photosynthesis? नहीं, हाथ से आंसर मत लिखो. सबसे important raw material क्या है? Water and carbon dioxide. Water, sunlight, chlorophyll, carbon dioxide ऐसे जंगल मत खेलो. Specific. Carbon dioxide, water. Carbon dioxide, water, then chlorophyll, sunlight. Hydrogen नहीं. What are the raw materials for photosynthesis? Photosynthesis के लिए most important requisites क्या है? Carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll, sunlight. That's which question?
9.
Number 9. Check करो. Are you writing these answers? What is your name? Writing, go through, देखो, जो भी doubt है पूछो, clarify. You should be very clear about what topics already done. This topics that I am teaching is all topic wise. I will not follow your pages of the textbook. The textbook के pages तुम्हें पढ़ना है, जो नहीं समझ में आया पूछना है. हाँ, 3 events याद है? Absorption of light, activation of chlorophyll. Those 3 events I am going to get this type of question for 3 marks in my head. What are the 3 events? Absorption of sunlight by chlorophyll, then conversion of light energy to chemical energy and breakdown of water to hydrogen and oxygen, and reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. It's there mentioned in your textbook. I asked you to write also. तुम लोगों ने लिखा भी है. So that is the question. Be very systematic in your work right from the beginning. All these question answers topic wise, as and when I give you in the notebook to write, likho, and read the textbook. Textbook, NCERT, now that we have finished with nutrition, we have finished with respiration, NCERT padho, till respiration, read and come the next class. And then check out what is there in the textbook, is it all covered, is it all understood, because I will teach you only topic wise, I don't go by the textbook, the pages of the textbook. The concept should be all clear, you have to read the book, so that off and on when I give you questions like this, you are able to answer them. The NCERT questions are all solved at the back check. The answers are written on the.
As for NCERT, there are almost 141 questions.
Answers are there. Which one you are saying? Answers are there.
Exercise on page number 173.
Questions.
Answers are there.
Answers are there, no? Yes. NCERT के सारे questions जो है chapter wise is all answered, हाँ, तो वो भी time to time check करो and go through. हाँ, topic wise, हाँ. These are only the NCERT questions which are answered. Rest the pre-board questions and whatever collection of questions are there. That from time to time, like today I gave you some. So from time to time I'll give you to answer like this. So पढ़ोगे अब इसको करेंगे. So from time to time you should be able to answer. And जैसे नए topics you are studying, and if you don't keep revising the previous topics, you'll forget. So make a schedule for yourself. Read, revise the previous, understand the new topics, and that's how you should go.
I will adopt in like question number 8C.
Yeah.
Name the balloon-like structures present in lungs and list its 2 functions.
Number 1 है balloon-like structures are alveolus or alveoli. List 2 functions. What are the 2 functions?
Exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide.
The 2 functions. Number 1 is
The
the diffusion of oxygen from where to where?
From alveoli to the blood.
And number 2 is diffusion of carbon dioxide from where to where. These are 2 functions. Okay. Respiratory functions only you write. 2 functions: diffusion of oxygen from alveolus to the nearby blood vessel. Diffusion of carbon. Respiratory breathing. Hemoglobin. And the role in human beings is transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. What we have studied just now, transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. It's carrying oxygen from lungs to body cells and carbon dioxide from body cells to the lungs. Transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide.
And do we have to explain the whole process, like
For
this transportation?
Depends. What is the question? one question I will give you, maybe in next class you go through first. What is the function of hemoglobin? Then you don't have to explain. What is the function of hemoglobin will only be a 1 mark question. Where you are writing it helps in memory of respiratory gases and its transport from lungs to body cells and body cells to lungs.
The question is mainly representative pigment and right is lower than human beings.
So this will be hardly a 1 year 2 mark question. So in NCR, in CBSE it is half and half mark bhi hota hai. So this probably will be a 1 mark ya to 2 mark question. If it is just explain how exchange of gases take place. That generally comes for 3 marks. Explain the oxygen and carbon dioxide transport in the human body. Then you have to write from the lungs and hemoglobin and everything. That next day I will give. You write down the question and keep. I'm not giving you today. You read first. समझो पहले, then I'll just give you the notes and notebook का decoration होगा. This should be filled up. चलो, write down the question and keep. This I will give you the next class. The entire concept of oxygen and carbon dioxide transport. सब लोग पहले पढ़ के आओ एक बार, read your NCERT. This few questions which I gave you, this you should be out. Explain the process of oxygen and carbon dioxide transport. Explain the process of oxygen and carbon. This comes for 3 mark question. There you have to write everything. Explain the process of oxygen and carbon dioxide transport. Now you finish the rest of the question. This I will give you next class. Remind me, we are going to start with this next class. Next class, all of you should have pencils. We are going to start with transportation. So we have to draw the diagram of the heart. Human heart we have to draw. All of you should have pencils. And you should complete also the diagram of the digestive system and the respiratory system. From where you got this? अच्छा इसके ऊपर साइए must have made a sticker out of it. You made it.
So it's taking of the GFC.
You can make this one. Just take a Xerox, black white Xerox, and make a sticker. Sticker print out होती है, so you can make a sticker. और ऐसे एग्जाम में नहीं चलेगा, हम don't practicing such methods. Done? Now I want to play one game. Last chapter ka. You all will ask questions to them and they will ask questions to you. Let me see how much you all have to pay. How I know that. Huh? Prepare?
Last chapter is nutrition.
Last chapter नहीं, last concept, last topic. एक question याद करो. Ask them. I don't want to ask. Nutrition. एक question prepare करो. Ask them. Let's see if you are able to answer them. And you will have to ask them. एक ही तो question खाली याद करना है. एक ही तो question खाली prepare करना है. Basic question. I want only elementary concepts. Cell का नाम. Specific one function, that much only. Don't go for anything elaborate now. I'm sure most of you have not started studying now. Basic एक one word answer. चलो, I'll give you 5 minutes. फटाफट. एक part का नाम, एक function, एक specific pigment का नाम, something like that. चलो. Ready है?
Question बना.
Nutrition ही मैंने पूछा है. Plant nutrition, animal nutrition, कुछ भी पूछ सकते हो. Name of an enzyme, name of a body part, example पूछ सकते हो. There's so much to remember. बहुत कुछ you have to remember. So you have to revise a number of times. Done? हो गया? You have thought of a question? अभी गंदे लगने लगे. चलो बहुत easy. Done no? चलो start. Who's going to ask from home? You just throw a question to your friend. let your friend answer. Chalo, I start from. Prepared? You're prepared with the question? Very good. Chalo.
Name the digestive tools responsible for emulsification.
Jenny.
By salts.
Did he ask you? Did he ask you?
Just specific to
Yes.
we prepared so she asked him.
Not a problem. Go on.
Another question.
Individual को पूछ. They all should study. Everybody should study.
To Anushka, how is pepsinogen activated?
What did you say?
How is pepsinogen activated?
Very good. Chalo. थोड़ा fast हो.
What is the second name of?
Jenny. किसी को भी पूछ.
किसको नहीं आया किसी को भी लेकिन पूछना. Salt.
Don't assume that तुमको नहीं आएगा. They all are very smart, ना? चलो. And be friendly. हम entire class ही क्या 1950s की तरह you are sitting this side, they are sitting this side. Be very friendly. When you interact with each other, you learn from each other so much. चलो.
What is the other name of salivary amylase?
किसको पूछा? Ayan, तुम्हारा
Name.
इसका. What is the other name of salivary amylase?
Not saliva. दूसरा. Ma'am told you.
हाँ?
That they don't know.
हाँ. So एक और choice दे दो दूसरे किसी को. Ayan has not started. Anybody else? अरे boys be fast. Salivary amylase का दूसरा नाम क्या है? What is the other name for salivary amylase? अरे किसी को नहीं आता? Salivary amylase का दूसरा नाम क्या है?
You can be answer.
The last one. Chashmish को नहीं आता है? What is the other name for salivary amylase?
Can you answer the question?
चलो अभी boys have not started. और I कुछ भी start नहीं किया.
हम क्या वो salivary amylase का
इस
दूसरा
तरह
नाम
से
भूल गया.
prompt तुमको याद रखना. चलो अभी आंसर फटाफट पूछो. पूछो. Thailand. T-T-Y-A-L-I-N. चलो पास.
ये कुछ भी पूछ सकते
पूछो. Anything that comes. Anything that you can think of. एक part पूछो, function पूछो.
And what is the spelling of that?
P-T-Y-A-L-I-N. You ask one question to them.
And he wants to ask.
पूछो. Ayan. Fast. हाँ पूछो. किसको पूछना है पूछो.
Difference between parasitic and
मुझे क्यों देख रहा है
saprophytic.
तुझे पूछ रहा है
अच्छा एग्जांपल बोलो. Example, difference between parasitic and
Parasitic and saprophytic.
saprophytic. एक example बोलो. Whom did you ask? Ayan, whom did you ask?
तूने दो क्वेश्चंस पूछे किसी और
अच्छा he knows only one answer. चलो answer.
Parasitic bleach and
Saprophytic example least. Come prepared, all of you. अगर एक दूसरे को देख तो आइए आपके लिस्ट.
कुछ भी ठीक है.
ये दर्शन मालूम है
अबे धन्य अबे हाँ मैं intersecting that a1 upon is not equal to b1 upon b2.
हो गया
अबे क्या intersect
इंटरसेक्टिंग का बोला
हाँ।
दूसरे को कोइंसिडेंट लाइन से बोला
कोई नहीं का तो खत्म कर दिया।
अरे वाह
अरे सर तेरे पास क्वेश्चन नंबर 9 11th
मेरे पास सेशन
अरे हाँ
मैथ्स
मैथ्स
पढ़ रहा है guys, मैथ्स पढ़ेंगे।
प्रैक्टिस करना है पढ़ना
एग्जैक्टली
मैथ्स पढ़ूंगा मैं।
पड़ेगा
Yes,
कौन से साल के?
सर मैं कौन नहीं पढ़ेंगे।
अभी इसी वाला हां
नेचर ऑफ ग्रुप्स
ये कितना इजी क्वेश्चन है
कौन सा
अरे सुनो सफियान मुझे डाउट है मैं सर को क्वेश्चन कर रहा हूं वो ग्रेटर डिजिट और स्मॉलर डिजिट वाला क्वेश्चन था तो उसके अंदर अपनी को नहीं पता कि x माइनस वैलिड है y माइनस x है तो उसको कैसे डिटरमाइन करते हैं
x minus y या y minus
कौन सा
x सुन वो सर ने कहा था कि दो केसेस लगा के चेक करना है बट आई
अच्छा विलन यूज कर रहे हैं कोई और कर रहा है या सर ने कोई मेथड दिया था
सर ने बोला था कि पहले x minus y से चेक करो अगर तुम्हारा एक डिजिट नेगेटिव निकल रहा है तो तुम्हें y minus x करना पड़ेगा और वाइस वर्सा
और अगर एक डिजिट पॉजिटिव रहना चाहिए एक नेगेटिव रहना चाहिए
दोनों के दोनों पॉजिटिव होने चाहिए बट अगर तेरा x और y का वैल्यू अगर डेट में भी आई थिंक नेगेटिव आ रहा है
सो
तो तुझे दूसरा लेना पड़ेगा बस नेगेटिव हो ही नहीं सकता है
सर अगर ट्रांसपोजिशन अलग किया तो जैसे कि आंसर दिया है
ट्रांसपोजिशन से आंसर कभी चेंज नहीं होता देखो x minus y y minus x अलग होते हैं
हां एग्जैक्टली तो वही बोला
तो उसी में वही होता है ना तो तेरा आंसर बदल जाएगा अगर x minus y या y minus x लिया अरे
6 तो